coming up.
What? And it is incredible.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the CGS channel. But today, we're back ranking Ultrakill.
Last week, I returned to my greatest series of ranking the Ultrakill OSTs, this time featuring the first two of the brand new Layer 8 Fraud soundtracks. Unfortunately, however, I did have to stop after that as they were the only two released officially on Hakita's channel. However, now the others are here, I'm here, the updated tier list is here. Let's listen to some more Fraud. Although importantly, it was brought to my attention that there's actually a 10th song released, not made by Hakita, but rather Vylet Pony. Both of their channel links will be down in the description below, but she has made a brand new cybergrind track that goes by the name of Knee for Knee? N-I for... Oh. An eye for an eye. Yeah, I probably should have figured that out earlier. Either way, I am super excited for this, as the other two original cybergrind tracks I placed pretty high up at 6th and 7th. Shut up CJS, an eye for an eye. Let's go. Okay, a bit of an intro. Written by Vylet Pony, music by Vylet Pony, vocals by Vylet Pony, produced, mixed and mastered by Vylet Pony. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this might be by Vylet Pony, and she's already cooking with this 4/4 kick drum beat. Is that a snare overlay too? The industrial breakbeat continues with this piercing filtered oscillator, definitely sitting in the high frequency range of around 6 to 7 kilohertz. Damn it! I've just swan dived into my monitor. I don't think we are fully comprehending what has just happened here. In the year and 7 months of OST reactions I've done on the channel, there has been vocals to some degree in every single one of them. Terraria Calamity, Infernum, Wrath of the Gods, Hollow Knight Silksong, Risk of Rain, kinda. There was just commentary in A Glacier Eventually Farts, but that's technically vocals, but never in Ultrakill, and it already sounds beautiful. I'm going to put on screen in the editing the lyrics for you, but it's time to lose our mind again. Oh my god, I love it! I will say, when it comes to music analysis, I'm not the most knowledgeable when it comes to vocals, or at least not like everything else that makes up a track. However, what I can say is how Vylet Pony has a strikingly powerful voice, which is only exaggerated on through a stereo harmony layer. I have been trying to learn more about vocals in my free time, which accumulates to about 2 minutes a week, or maybe a little more if you include the time sitting on the toilet. I just didn't need to include that at all, did I? Only on the CGS channel can you go from me removing my last 3 functioning brain cells by swan diving headfirst into my PC, to then analysing vocal layers, and then after that, talking about taking a fat dump all in the space of less than 60 seconds. If that doesn't deserve a like and sub, then seriously, what does? But we're getting sidetracked. Stereo harmony layer. We talk quite often about how we have textures in the foreground and background. However here, these are supportive layers, so they are effectively panned to the side, and what it does is kind of block and barrier off any other textures. So for example here, the heavy bass from taking over and drowning it out. Good triple reiteration. Great triple reiteration! I'm telling you, if you ever want to make a cybergrind related track back at home, do not hold back on the distorted bass synths. Add a sawtooth oscillator, which is the waveform used to elevate the bass's harmonics, and have inhumane levels of talent. So, simple really. Was that the loop? Nah. Yeah, it's too early for that. Is that a sustained bagpipe? Is Vylet Scottish by any chance? Ooh, nice passaggio, which is the higher pitch lead on the vocals for a single syllable. What? Shut up, shut up, shut up! That is the hardest job I've ever heard! Vylet Pony, who are you and where have you been for the last 21 years of my life? I'm going to listen to it again, of course, because my ears have clearly not been blessed enough already. I honestly wish we were doing another Ultra Final, so I'd have an excuse to talk about this for hours on end. In fact, I might start a podcast solely for this song. But anyway, here we go. I do really want to mention the technique used where we heard the held back anacrusis, or in other words, the 3-note pickup, the da-da-da, da-da-da, right before the drop. This is called a pre-drop restraint, or a ghost drop, so it basically foreshadows the following melody. And it just worked so well. It was like smothering my ears in golden syrup. I don't know why that came to mind, but it sounds nice, so we're going with it. But if we analyse and pick apart all the layers, what happened was the bass and the distortion that comes with it was restrained, the stereo width was narrowed, and the drums were held back, all resulting in a general volume reduction too, before altogether exploding in the most unfathomable dominance. It really felt like every single layer came together and held hands with one another, all to simultaneously destroy everything in its path and become both the unstoppable force and the immovable object. I've died, gone to heaven, been dragged down from heaven, died again, this time placed in hell, kicked all the way down to fraud, received CPR, been resuscitated, just for Vylet Pony just kill me again anyway! What? Machine oh machine! Ultrakill reference! I love it! Highly improved perfection, more sub-bass reinforcement and thicker kick and snares, I guess. This was unreal. Vylet Pony, take a bow. In conclusion, I don't know. I don't have a conclusion. My brain has been crushed, melted, and deep fried in cyber industrial electronic with a little sprinkle of drum and bass, massacre, and bloody harpsichord death. This is the easiest S tier of all time, and Vylet Pony is very much giving Keegan Church a run for his money with Tenebre Rosa Sangue for the GOAT spot, which will all be revealed at the end of next episode. So stay tuned. That was the longest and craziest OST reaction I have ever done on the channel, so I hope you enjoyed. It honestly feels like I've recorded an entire video already, but I haven't, as we still got 3 new OSTs to go, all from Hakita and all from 8-2. So let's start from the beginning, of course, with theme number 1, Never, Odd or Even. Let's go. Other than the industrial metallic samples, the main thing that stands out to me so far is these pulsating gated synths that sound like they're kind of scraping along the bottom of the composition, picking up all the rest of the layers with it to establish the 140-ish BPM. But to me so far it gives me the impression of V1 walking in on his first day at his new 9-to-5 job. Whoa! The melody recontextualizes, that's a big word, with tighter rhythmic articulation, which I mentioned last episode during In Absentia. It's just a fancy way of saying it's been modified to sound sharper. Now we have a piano sequence of E, D sharp, D, and let me just double check real quick. back to D sharp, I'm pretty sure. And that progression back up at the end not only makes the bar loop with less dissonance, but also sparks a little hope and encouragement for the otherwise negative descending chromatic figure. The lead synth now reinforces itself in a slightly higher register, where it's just enough to take control of the whole composition, but it's also in a sweet spot where it allows other textures to temporarily shine within, such as the short shaker pulses, most likely to be a classic egg shaker, which gives the illusion of rising tension before the following sequence, which is presumably going to be theme 2. But also, I do want to say I loved that sampled woodwind, which peaked at probably around A5. Quite a poetic yet melancholic finale here. In conclusion, I did like how Hakita reinterpreted the main melodic cell throughout, hopefully setting up for it to be expanded upon in the rest of the 8-2 level. And despite it being on the more simplistic side texturally, it definitely succeeded in creating some rhythmic tension, whether that be through the slight asymmetrical phrasing earlier on to throw you a little off guard, or the register shifts both in positive and negative correlations. I will say the overall harmonic palette was limited, so it featured less memorable chord moments, which I personally believe could have been fixed through introducing in the second half of the track what's called a 2-chord axis, as currently it, for the most part anyway, it just sat on a single tonal center. 2-chord axis basically creates a smooth transition between two chords through having a shared note or notes between them. So for example here we had the tonal center of D minor, which consists of D, F and A. That could have been shared with a B flat major chord, which consists of B flat, D and F. So the shared notes are of course D and F. Don't get me wrong, I do understand why it's like this from a gameplay standpoint, but from my perspective, I only rank these tracks based on how they sound, not the context of them. So for that reason, I'm going to place never odd or even, nearly top of B tier, ultra worthy. 2 down, 2 to go for today, so you know what that means. It's time for comment of the week. Let's not waste any time and get straight into the top donator shout out, which once again goes to MKWK47, this time saying, "Man, I love this family friendly YouTube channel." Yes! Finally we have a normal comment. Oh, thank God. Where Gabriel fists us from behind, CJS climaxes to music with pride, and we, yes we, crack idled mind flayers. Ugh. This got 150 likes, right, which is one thing in itself. But again, for the second video in a row, I kid you not, half of the comments are talking about cracking an idled mind flayer. This is getting out of hand. I even saw a comment saying that I want to crack Minos Prime, Siphysus Prime. I saw a comment saying that I want to crack the Earth Mover. That is an inanimate object. I saw a comment saying I want to crack the idol itself, the tier list, and this comment. I'm going to go real quick and
bleach my eyes out.
Do you know what would be really nice? If we could all move on from talking about cracking mind flayers and a stone statue of a woman cradling a child, by the way, which was achieved through the comment of the week winner. So congratulations to Robbie Hobson 6051, who left a short but sweet comment that mixed comedy, cleverness and kindness, whilst also referencing the Ultrakill opening tagline by saying, "Boredom is dead, CJS is fuel, my ears are full." Thank you very much, Robbie. I really had to dig through over 400 comments just to find one that was normal, so in my opinion, a worthy winner. And as usual, if you want to have a chance of being featured as comment of the week for next week's video, which will be the third and final Ultrakill Layer 8 Fraud OST ranking, all you have to do is subscribe and comment down below. Actually, one more thing. I just released a short for last week's Shame of the Week. Let's see if the comments are any better. Can I have a little bit of faith in you guys? I don't know, man. Mind Flayer's cool, but all I think about is Minos. Okay, we've got another freak there. If they're idle, they can't be hurt. Yep, the police. This is him right here. I really want to crack both idled Mind Flayer and a power. I don't even know what a power is, but based on my community, it can't be that good. I want to be cracked by an idled Mind Flayers, plural. I actually replied to that one. Yes, we are cracking powers. Again, I don't know what that is. Yes, we are cracking hideous mass! It's time to continue with 8-2, now featuring No Devil Lived On. This is already turning into quite a long video, so no more build up. Let's go. Oh, okay, here we go. If before V1 was walking in to his first day of work at his new 9-to-5 job, now just 10 minutes into his shift, he's burnt the entire building down. But this is very rhythmically focused. Oh! Synth electric guitar! The crunch! Damn! The riff ostinato locks in with full potency, built from a heavy pedal note and some minor third leaps. Oh my! The lead synth carries the melodic contour in a celebratory waltz, only heightened from the triple kick grouping. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Has V1 ascended to heaven? Hakita is going all out with these drums. The kicks, snares and hi-hats all burst through the composition with 30-second note subdivisions, and pairing that with the already super fast tempo, we're talking well over 1,000 hits per minute. But move out of the way, drums! Move out of the way, percussive riff! A new synth guitar layer enters with maximum harmonic weight. Oh my word! I can tell Hakita has threw everything into this track, and it is incredible. This guitar is processed with a low pass filter, which you can identify from the higher end of it being very soft and smooth rather than not so soft and smooth. Yet the attack of it, which is how quickly a texture hits its peak amplitude, very quickly cuts through it. And that evokes trying to hide your desperation through putting on a brave face. You know, you say that you're okay and nothing is wrong, but really, you feel like the world's weight is resting on your shoulders. And maybe the kinetic drums could represent your mind frantically searching for options and possibilities on how to lift it. Well, this surprises me. We have a bit of a breakdown reminiscent of the flamenco section from Death Odyssey. The chaotic nature of the bass completely eases up, and look, we have a diminuendo after the breakdown. This is a technique we've seen many a time on the channel before. Sometimes in this soundtrack, but predominantly in the Terraria Calamity OST by DM Dakuru. What he'd do is he'd often launch you right into the deep end, and just as you're about to internally combust with exhaustion, he'd temporarily lift you out of the chaos to give you a little much needed rest and gather your surroundings. However, after that, he'll then kick you back into the thick of it, but this time with an even more extreme and extravagant composition, and I can't help but feel like we're going to see this too in just a minute. You come face to face with your day one mortal enemy. You lock eyes, half taken back by what you're witnessing, with the other half boiling with rage and adrenaline. This is the reason mankind is dead. This is the reason hell is full. Great timing! Oh my god! The same motif returns from earlier, but still held back in terms of harmonic thickness, but most certainly not held back in terms of distortion. In fairness, there are fewer textures, so it feels a lot thicker than it actually is, but Hakita knows what he's doing. This was deliberate. I guess to suggest the start of this new battle being quite messy, maybe nerves start to creep in and take over. Oh, glory to the electric guitar! I sometimes get asked, CJS, why is this in your top 3 favourite instruments? This! You cannot tell me it doesn't make for the greatest final climaxes. Oh my. We heard it in Castle Bane, we heard it in Altars of Apostasy, we heard it in War Without Reason, and now we are witnessing history as we hear it in No Devil Lived On. Wow. Maybe this is the point where the devil no longer lives on, and you feel empty, almost sympathetic, after the conflict, just like Death Odyssey Aftermath. Oh! I think that was a riser in anticipation for the following theme. So we'll listen back to that transition in just a moment. But first, in conclusion, this track, this video, and this layer so far is absolute fraud. If this level didn't already rip you to pieces like a sheet of A4 paper in a shredder, the distortion most definitely did. At times, it was so powerful, partially from the lack of textures like I mentioned before, but also partially from it being composed with multiple distortion stages in a chain. Distortion stages, that's a bit of a tongue twister. But of course, it was the main melody motif that we heard that stood out above the rest by a country mile. Not only was the progression of 1671, not only was the G minor tonic of it so clean, it was performed with one of the most breathtaking yet brutal synth electric guitars I have ever heard. This is another easy S tier, and please Hakita, if we don't hear that leitmotif in the rest of layer 8, can we please get it in layer 9, or even better, P-3, whatever that will be, probably Jesus Prime. Now we move on to the final track of this episode, and the third and final track of 8-2, Mirror Rim. I don't think it's going to be possible to get a smooth transition to this track on YouTube, so just like we did with Suffering Leaves to Dance Macabre, let's go to Spotify. Alright, this is a bit weird admittedly saying this and not being ready to press play on YouTube, but let's go. Oh my god. I was going to say that wasn't a very good transition. Okay, let's try again. Let's go. Yes! Much better. But this is interesting. I must admit, when I heard the riser effects before, I was expecting a catastrophic crash of the most bonkers instruments and textures, but instead we've got a very modest G minor piano and low frequency drone humming in the background. Dynamic breakdown, maybe alluding to a crazy drop now. Yes! And that was an understatement! The melody speeds up now to a 30-second note rhythm whilst exploding in the sub-bass. On top of that, it was psychologically more impactful due to two main reasons. The obvious one was the breakdown I mentioned, so the energy after it was much more impactful. However, the other one stems a little bit outside of the composition and more into the mental lore. This layer is literally called fraud, which messes with your mind, as this whole level could be built off lies and deception, and you don't know what to trust down here, so even when you subconsciously expect something to happen, you can never be truly sure. Therefore, when the bridge does eventually arrive, there's actually a bit of tension relief, which you can hear in the instrumentation too. What is that? Actually, it's my job to explain it. Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's a dissonant cluster chord, which by definition is a chord that features 3 or more adjacent tones in a scale, usually separated by major seconds, or what I believe to be separated by here, a minor second tonic of G, A flat and C sharp. I think these are deliberately dissonant to signal danger and act as an alarm and a warning for what's to come. But it also destabilises the harmony, so it could be like Hakita telling us, throw out the rulebook, get rid of everything you've learned up to this point, as this is a completely new and unique experience that you've never had before, and it's most likely not a positive one of that, as this is like if stress had a theme. The synthesized electric guitar returns now, but this time in a higher register, potentially mimicking desperation, almost grimacing through the pain, as Hakita once again masterfully displays V1's and R emotions through the textures. And go away! Yeah, I find this so fascinating. You've had so many melodic and harmonic and signature switch-ups, like we had 2-4-3-4-4-4. I even think some 7-8 grouping inside the riff just there. It's almost like the track itself is confused. Maybe we get put through both a physical and mental maze, where the dissonant cluster chords is just hell itself laughing at us and our struggles. Screw it, it's my only opportunity to say it this episode. Boom! Okay. I do definitely have some things I'd like to point out and discuss. So, in conclusion, you know when the whole Ultrakill fandom, including myself, say he's in your walls? I actually think this is a very accurate level for this. Referring to the clock ticking sound effect at the end now, I do wonder if this is a unique challenge and level gameplay wise where you actually have a time limit to complete a certain task, or more likely to defeat a boss slash mini boss, as this is at the end of the level. Maybe the enemy powers up and upgrades and gets stronger the longer the fight gets on, so it's telling you to finish it off and get the job done as quick as possible. But other than that, I think I explained how I felt and my interpreted context behind each section. Of course, I love the electric guitar as always, as well as the bass harmonic rhythm. However, those cluster chords did unfortunately give me a bit of complete and utter destruction of the senses trauma. So for that reason, Mirror Room will place a little bit behind its theme 1 counterpart, also in B tier. Wow. Even though we've only covered 4 OSTs in this video, it has been one of the craziest and most memorable ever, and it has been nothing short of an absolute blast. If you've enjoyed this video, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Even commenting and hyping the video helps me out massively in the algorithm, as I'm still a fairly small YouTuber and every little bit matters so much to me. You know, I'm just trying to get out the best possible quality content that I can for you whilst I still can, so yeah, if you have done that, that would be very much appreciated. But even if you choose not to, I still want to say a big thank you for watching all the way to the end of this video. I'll be back next Sunday on the 15th to rank the final 4 tracks before declaring if any of them challenges for the greatest of all time spot, which is incredibly exciting. But in the meantime, good night.